Hello and welcome. I'm Martin Groschwald, CEO of Konzepthaus. What you're about to see and hear is one of 12 panel talks from our Mobility Design Conference 2025 at the Munich Motor Show, where we brought together leading voices from design, technology and mobility to explore the future of our industry. In this session, you'll hear fresh perspectives and valuable insights straight from our stage. Let's dive in. Hello and welcome to this afternoon sessions. It's the last official session here in the main stage. And we're going to talk about changing the modeling process. And before I introduce you to our esteemed panel that we're having here today, I wanted to give you a little bit of a background on what we would like to talk about today and maybe what we don't want to talk about today. So, especially in mainstream design conversation, we talk a lot about AI having a process, an impact on a creative process. And in the pre-call that we had for that, we were all quite honest about it and said like, well, it's probably bollocks. I think it will have a little bit more impact on other areas from what we have talked about. And the creative process will be affected by AI, but probably just a little bit. What will be much more affected will be the role of the modeling process and the operational system that goes behind it. And that's exactly what we want to talk about today. So we want to explore a little bit. We're not here to give you any solutions because I think none of us really know what a solution will be. But we're here to discuss a little bit on what we might see and what might come actually to us in the next few years. And if that is realistic or if it's not, remains to be seen. At the moment, I think we can't really say in detail of everything that we will discuss today if it will come to life or not. But to do that and explore that a little bit, I am very happy, and I start on the very, very far side over there, to welcome Richard Gillespie. Hello, Rich.
Hello.
Then in the middle we have Joshua Reer, and obviously, as you can all see, because he's dressed in all black, is a designer.
Hey there.
And then to my right we have Antonio Pezzella, who is one of the best CAS or automotive modelers that I personally know as well. So we have a very diverse background over here, from very high level innovation within an organization to the designer to the modelers. And I want to start off with something a little bit that we have just heard in the intro as well, and that is that topic of AI. And Josh, I want to kind of start with you on the creative side, on the design side. What is your experience so far? I know you experienced a lot with it on various topics, not just on creatively, but also on prompting and everything that goes along with that. Has it had any, influence on your day-to-day life as a designer? What have you learned so far? What kind of effect has it had on you, how you design and how you're working, or maybe even collaborating with other departments?
Yeah, so I think, yes, it had a tremendous impact. And I think it will continue to have that tomorrow and the day after. And this impact will grow bigger and bigger as we're speaking. But what struck me most is that these days it's very easy to follow the hype of where the impact is. And when we look on the internet and when we research, we see images, we see videos everywhere, mass-produced. And that's where I really ask myself, is that really the leverage that we get from AI and from this technology? Is that really the only place we can use it? And so me personally, yes, I experimented with that, but what I also looked into more and more is how can it actually shape the parts of the process that we might be wanting to actually automate or where we need help. Like I'm using AI a lot also as a mentor. Like when I reach my horizon of what I know, where my expertise are, I use it in order to mentor me across that horizon and to also keep track of very mundane tasks that I have in my day-to-day life. And let's say if we divide the life of a designer who is a bit further into the process with a bit more seniority, then very quickly you get a lot of meetings, a lot of like following up on data and tasks and communication. And this is maybe eating 70%, 80% of your day job. And you cram into the last bit of the 20%, you cram into the creativity. Why should we take this tool and speed up the 20% when we can also use it to make the 20-50 and have it 50-50 and have more chill time to actually do what's the essence of our job? So that's what I'm searching for.
Antonio, obviously you're coming from the modeling side, whereas Josh comes from the creative side. How's it been like for you?
What I can add to that is, as you say, I come from the modeling background, so I didn't investigate too much on the sketching side, which it's great, obviously, but it also impacted me in a great manner on the programming side of things, on the parametric side of things, and also on the language barrier. For example, I use several softwares to do my job. One of them is Blender, another is CATIA, or there is some applications that give you the possibility to basically script your own tools. In that way, I was able to bypass the need of having a programmer next to me. I had some basic skills with Python, but I'm not a programmer by any means. But now I'm capable of creating my own tools and my own methods, which were probably not possible, a couple of years ago. And this obviously enhanced my speed and enabled me to create some stuff that was not possible before. Like getting a task from a company that before I would have said I could not do it. Yeah.
Rich, from the call it more corporate side, that you look things at as well, but obviously go into projects as well. What discussions did you have about AI and the creativity? What expectations did you maybe get also from even higher levels all the way down to the working level? What's your experience there?
I think there was an initial fear of AI at the beginning, that it was regurgitating things and that weren't original. And but by the same token, there was also a seduction of AI that there were going to be these combinations. I call them like a ratatouille moment, where two things, are working together that you haven't seen before together, and acting as almost a creative spark to someone who's just staring at a blank canvas. So that's, I think where it started, and then now it's in this thing where it's almost becoming like, even the AI videos that you see, some of them are really compelling and everything, but there's a certain flavor to them, and it's starting to already get this kind of clip art feeling. So now I feel like we're looking more away from, like you were saying, the design stuff, but more of the stuff that gets in the way of design, and automating that through AI things. For instance, not needing a programmer to develop your own tools for the administrative work that you have to do within your profession, whether it's, if I'm researching equipment and trying to come up with what's the best 5 things that I should use, you can really quickly scrape things and, and find out, your research a lot quicker than you used to be able to.
You said something obviously about workflow that I want to just pick up a little bit on that. And Josh, maybe to start with you from the creative side, what do you think is going to have the biggest impact on a workflow from the modeling side for you as a designer, but also maybe what do you see as, or what you would like to see as changes in the workflow as well, so maybe that the vision that you have becomes a better reality or a better product in the end?
I think that there's a huge possibility in simulations, and taking us as designers, as modelers, a lot closer to the final product and to the factory. We all know this example from Tesla, where they had the designers sit in the factory in order to see the impact that our work has on the final product. And I think with simulation tools that are emerging, that sometimes are even already in place, just look at Omniverse and what's done with that right now, I think there are possibilities to getting all of us closer to the final product, also getting us closer to other departments, having more of this cross-department communication and expertise. And I think as a designer, if you're closer to the end product, this can only be a good thing, because it's going to make your job also more fulfilling, because finally you're able to, with a closer feedback loop, serve the product and make better products in the end. So that's my take on that.
Yeah, I completely agree. I mean, now if we can do some of these simulations, like Josh was saying, further up front in the design process, as you're developing the model, then you don't have to go so far downstream to find out, oh, we can't we can't do this door cut that way, or it's not aerodynamic enough. We need to, those things can be figured out a lot earlier now if AI allows that to come into Alias or CATIA or whatever software we're using, and we can run simulations at night, do design during the day. So, completely agree.
I'm going to continue to that because I've seen what some companies are currently developing, and they are pushing a lot in the direction of simulation together with modeling in the same application, so where basically a concept modeler can automatically check the aerodynamics and make a change. Although, just to add something different, one more aspect I see as very important in the future, if we discuss AI integration into modeling, I see automation, like a lot of automation. There is a lot of systems, a lot of methods which are repetitive. So if you have something which has a repeatable process for a creation, let's take an example. If you take a cabin or a tire or even the fuel cap or anything like that, which has always a standard way of being created, well, you can script that, you can automate that. And today there is some applications emerging that some of you may know, like we know Grasshopper, we know like CATIA X Generative, we know Alias has Dynamo. These kind of applications, today you can put together a bunch of nodes which basically represent construction history to create a form. Today we have a user putting together the nodes, so he has to understand the history to build that geometry. But we can imagine in a near future, and I know it's getting there, we can expect that to be automated in a way. Like you can even add your own nodes with the ChatGPT script and make a complex mathematic action that otherwise you would have, make yourself. And you can expect that, it's not going to replace the modelers by any means, but it's a tool in the pocket a modeler has to quickly produce something he was not capable to do before. I created already some stuff in this direction, but it's not AI-driven, it's user-driven, but I can see how the AI could replace me in that process. It's very, very much feasible and scary, but I don't see that as scary because I don't think you will have many modelers that will go in that history direction. But yeah, that's a potential stream where you can see how these nodes will be driven by an AI together with a user input, which can be a designer input like curves, and generate an output like a proper model, which is out of surface, is Bezier, not mesh, as we have seen before by some other companies produced. That means a designer could basically take that model and use it as a first concept and continue sketching on it, or he doesn't really need a model. Yeah, yeah, that was pretty much it. So,
Rich, from a corporate perspective, how likely do you think this is going to be integrated? Like when you hear this, because we're not talking about stuff that's tens of years away now. We're talking about stuff that could really come. What do you see as challenges for that from a corporate perspective? Is it easy to implement, or?
No, there's still a fear with it, and getting it to be on premise, versus in the cloud type of thing. So it will take some time, but there will be, who knows which company will have just the right blend of it to really empower their design process. But I think once that happens, it'll take off pretty fast. But what I see software-wise, I think, unfortunately, it doesn't seem like the software companies, believe it or not, are developing fast enough for our design process to get the things that we want in there. We should be able to, if you're an alias modeler, your software should be able to learn from the roadblocks that you're hitting, and it should be able to make a recommendation. Okay, you're trying this transition. It looks like you're having difficulty there. This is what you should be doing in that area. Stuff like that should be in there, but I don't see enough progress from the software companies yet to really give me that hope that it's going to be so soon, even though the technology is moving that fast in other fields, like in pharmaceuticals, and finding out solutions for medications. That is moving really fast, but I feel we're quite a ways behind in terms of industry and applying AI to our industry properly.
I feel also that on the one side we have the software companies, and on the other side we also have our departments that are, frankly speaking, still very much siloed. So we have big issues really connecting all the departments in a car OEM together and working hand in hand. Like, how often have we heard of fights between design and marketing, design and engineering and marketing, I don't know, but there's all these types of conflicts, and we have, for some reason, we have hard time really working in the same direction. And this is so very crucial to leverage the power of these tools, because they combine a lot more data space than we can think of today. But we also have to be able to leverage these tools in order to have the data and have the horizon to push us to this level of efficiency and also somehow discovery. Yeah.
Anything to add? Or?
Just one last thing regarding what the colleague said, what Richard said regarding the software should learn from us, right? I was at the Dassault presentation last year, and they basically, this year, and they presented exactly something in that direction where the UI, the more you use it, the more it's going to suggest you the right tools. And I've seen exactly what you described. I'm not sure. It's great. Obviously, it's a step forward. But is that really going to change the design process on its own? Not really. It's just removing a little bit of frustration for the modeler, but it doesn't really move the discussion forward. How we get more efficient? Yeah. But it's good to have. Yeah.
So maybe just to jump into that, what do you think needs to happen in the process, but maybe also in the software side, because they go hand in hand, to exactly achieve that kind of level of efficiency, that kind of level of help, where you say, now this really makes sense for us. What ideas come to mind?
Can I start? I'm going to quote what my former boss, Thomas Samuber, here at the presentation today. I'm going to quote him. He said one day, because we introduced a lot of tech into Neo at the time, in the beginning, and he said, we are fast enough. We don't need to get any faster. We can deliver a car in a week or complete. I did that. We did that as a team. The only thing which stops you is the bad decision cycle. You need to have a stronger decision maker, a guy that will stick to his idea, which is a designer or a boss or the owner, doesn't matter. If you start something, it's hard to get that project to the end because there is a lot of influence in between. So basically, the best that can happen in any company is to reduce the management structure, or at least the decision-making structure. It has to be like almost a direct connection between the guy paying and the guy producing, and not much people in between.
Yeah, I agree with that in general, but even getting faster with design, we're losing something about marinating on the design, because you see a design at first like, oh, that's great, and then maybe a few weeks later you're like, wait, I'm thinking about this more, and I think if we lose that ability to live with the design during the design process, then it could actually end up hurting the end product. So I think it's a careful balance.
Yeah, I think this is where we need to distinguish between just doing something fast for the sake of it, and supporting something to be faster, but on a more informed level in terms of decisions. Because I think with the technology leverage that we are getting, it will be possible to improve certain basis for a decision, and thus get some decisions that are maybe questioned later during the process for unnecessary reasons, because they can in fact be very clear from the get-go. But I think in the design process we will always have this kind of iterative steps, and yes, they can be shorter, but I think it's just part of the design process and of the for example, if you do the base of the base, which is like a design strategy for a brand, then you have to iterate, because the whole strategy for the brand is not going to be obvious just like that. So this is something we can't just iterate away, possibly. But I think there are things where we can make better decisions and support decision making a lot more with the data and tools that we already have. We just need to leverage it the right way.
So what kind of skills do you think that a designer of the future, a modeler of the future, like, that kind of role, do we even, I'm going to be a little bit more provocative here, do we even need that role of a modeler, or will it evolve into something different? What kind of skill set do you see as absolutely fundamental for that next generation to come in?
Well, the modeler is going to, is hardly going to be replaced. Also, modeler is a very generic term because a modeler can be a concept modeler, can be a C class, B class, A class modeler. Each of them has a deep set of skills. You cannot imagine AI just to simply overtake that, or even a designer that has learned a little bit of Blender to replace a modeler that can produce quality. This is not going to happen anytime soon. It can happen in the next 10, 15 years when AI is going to be so strong that it can generate a proper model at any level because the humans teach it. If we can learn it, they can learn it. It can learn it. So yeah, I don't see how this is going to. I mean, the skills that the future modelers are going to need. You need to have a strong understanding of quality because you will need to be the guy who is judging if the AI is good or not. That can be a designer, but it can be a modeler. I mean, if the modeler usually knows more about the quality because that's the job, that would be one task. And I would say they should rather focus more on skills than softwares. Like, I did this mistake myself for a long time. I just stick to one software for very long, even though I knew two of them. But until I realized a tool is a tool, and you should use the best tool for the best action, and that sped up things quite a bit. Also, you need to be able to collaborate with the other team members that may not use the software you use. So as a in the future, you want to be able to learn more software, so focus on the skills, and be prepared to changes, because that's, the processes are getting squeezed by the day. In the past, I had the opportunity to make a steering wheel in 3 weeks when I was back at Audi. Now I have to do it in 1 day sometime. So you need to be prepared for that mindset, that you need to be fast, efficient, that you don't really have time to iterate.
Yeah, I mean, exactly the same feeling on that. You just have to be very, very adaptable. You have to keep aware of the softwares that are coming out and the new processes that are coming out, and keep yourself informed, and be flexible with what you do. I mean, ultimately, as a modeler, you need to help your boss visualize their idea quickly. And for a lot of modeling, like right now, for instance, yes, we see the model, but we need to also understand the materials. So I think there needs to be more material integration as we model stuff to see the effect of what we're doing as surfaces. But that's something that's coming, I think. So
yeah, I think the knowledge base is going to be a lot wider. I mean, as I pointed out in the beginning, I think simulations and moving us closer to the factory line, to the product, will be a big thing, and thus we will have to be more skilled in looking forward, like what is the impact of what I'm doing, and why is that the impact, and work closer to the engineering, work closer to the suppliers, and be more predictive in that, have a broader set of skills and knowledge. And yeah, just to further support what you said, I recently started to dive into computer science and coding, and the last lecture of the class that I took, and we dove into like I think six or eight different languages, like each one a little bit. But the last lecture literally was like, now you got the idea of what it is to do coding in different languages. But the main idea that you should take away from this course is to be able to adopt this logic to all the different systems that will cross your path during your career. And I mean, who knows it better than them? Because AI is literally revolutionizing coding. And I think for them, it's a lot more dangerous than for a modeler to be like, I'm going to be replaced tomorrow. I think coders have a lot more fear of that right now. So I think that's a good message to take out for us as well. Yeah.
Right. At Konzepthaus, we're passionate about shaping the future of mobility design. A big part of that is connecting the right talent with the right opportunities. Through our recruiting team, we help both studios and companies, as well as designers and design leaders worldwide, to find their perfect fit to make a difference. If you want to learn more about our recruitment services, head over to konzepthaus-consulting.com. If we look a little bit further outside, we're talking very much car world at the moment as well. If you look, and Josh, you mentioned computer science, of course, as well, but if you look at other creative processes that you might observe, fashion or whatever, what kind of impact do you see having these learnings, these observations that we're having onto the car process? Is it something that we can take from somebody else, fashion, pretty much anything like the VFX industry, for example? We talk a lot about pipelines there. Where do you see an impact coming from, or where are you most interested to see something coming into the car industry that's maybe not there yet?
That's a hard question to... Well, again, I will relate to software because that's where I currently see the most happening, but that's a very generic answer because it can be anywhere. What I wish to see is more in the automation, as I already previously mentioned. You mentioned fashion, which is interesting because a big topic is always like, let's make seats and patterns on the seat. There is some applications that are basically not used in the automotive, and they are more targeting exactly this scope. And I don't see people learning it, and it could be an efficient way to solve an issue. Other than that, nothing comes to my mind at the moment. But yeah.
Yeah, I guess I just see it in terms of one way I see it is that the designer is allowed to concentrate more on bookends of a design. So maybe something that's more angular and something that's more amorphic. And now the software can help them go through the ones in between. Almost, I'm oversimplifying it, but like a slider between the designs, and then they can get an idea of, okay, I want it 80% angular, 20% amorphic design, and that's where I'm going to target my design. And then they get, it doesn't complete the design for them, but it at least gives them a feel for how it would, could be. So instead of them drawing every single, possibility and making all this guesswork, they could get a visual of, where they need to be, a rough idea a lot quicker, So that's one way in the process.
I'm going to try to take this a bit more philosophical. I think the more and more we automate and introduce technology and digital stuff into our physical world, the more and more it will be important for us to judge what we are actually doing with it, where we're implementing it and why. Because in the end, we are telling a story. The car is invented is a story that we as humans invented for some reason. And as long as we still exist as human beings, we will still need to kind of continue to tell the story. And I think this will become more and more important when we are all of a sudden all feeling a threat of, maybe this story dramatically changing. So we kind of have to become authors in this context.
Coming back to an earlier question, and of course there's kind of new skills when you mention something like that. Maybe building onto that, what do you think, a young designer nowadays, a young modeler, on top of that technical skill that you mentioned already, they need to know? You mentioned this kind of authorship, you mentioned this kind of storyboarding that goes along with that. What is important for you then also to kind of make sure that the message that they can bring along in a shortened process, in a different kind of capacity, they can be successful with?
I mean, for me, I think they have to have this will to support a story. Like in a movie production, everyone is working to support the character of the actor, whether it's through the stage stuff that they have or the costumes. It's all in support of the character. And to your point, your philosophy, it's whatever product we're developing, it has to support that story. And you just have to be so adaptable, whether it's supporting the story through better aerodynamics or through easier functionality of getting in and out of the car, who knows what, or some other UX thing. They really have to have that flexibility to see what they're working on and say, okay, this is how I can support my designer's story and their product.
If I may add, one of the main skills, as Richard just said, is the adaptability. The people need to be capable to adapt to the situation very quickly, because, as we already mentioned, the process is squeezing so much that one of your main skills must be versatility, so that you can jump from one project which is doing, NURBS modeling, then to sub-D or to patterns. So you want to be able to tackle these tasks without fear and without fear to making mistakes. And the focus should be on quality. Like, you want to be able to evaluate the quality of these jobs. That's one of the skills I would expect to see from such users, especially from the new users.
But maybe just, Josh, just a second, maybe just to jump into that as well. We don't, you only learn that actually when you're in the OEM most of the time. So what needs to happen in the education of those kind of skills? Is the current education, especially on the modeling process, but Josh, you know this maybe a little bit better on the design side, giving you that background and that foundation to say, I can start making those kind of decisions?
Yeah, I think design education has always been like a very critical topic, in that you have to foster creativity and you have to give your students the room to think and to explore a lot more than what will happen later in the industry. But at the same time, the industry demands more and more, even as you start as a junior, to bring skill sets to the table that were unheard of 10 years ago. And I think that's where education also has to shift to maybe let's split it into advanced design and production design, and say we very clearly need to focus on the reality and what it is to be a designer, to make an actual product, what our impact on the environment is when we're making this product, and take this into consideration. And then maybe have a course in advanced design where we can go completely crazy and foster our creativity and stay fresh.
Yeah. I guess the institutions that I see that are developing successful people that come to us, they put their students in team environments where they have to develop something together, and that forces them to become adaptable. It puts them through the different parts of the design process. You know, whether it's the modeling, everybody gets a chance to basically run a circuit in the process. And you know, I think that kind of education, that need for that type of education will never, you know, go away. Just different tools. Yeah.
Yeah, that's also a topic which I had in the past. Also, in a previous presentation at the like education is a big deal. Today we see a lot of it which is software oriented. Like I always see, like, all the people coming out of the university, they learn Alias, which is fine because then you can find a job. But then you see a lot of demand for other applications. Like today you see Blender, you can see Maya or Grasshopper. I don't really see people targeting these because they, you know, if I focus 100% in that direction, I may not find a job because it's not so requested. Yet, when you find yourself in the environment, and it goes exactly to that point where this is stuff that needs to be done by someone, and yeah, the education should also invite users, as I said before, to think about, focus on skills and not on software. Like, the skill is more important than the software. You need to be able to accomplish certain tasks regardless of what software you're using. Talking on the modeler's point of view. Do I wish to see that improved on the education side? Yes, I see a lack there, a lack of proactivity.
Yeah, I think in that regard, the education is maybe too focused on a certain curriculum that's fixed, and it's just not working anymore these days. I mean, I cannot even go into the studio and say, like, I am a designer and I use this tool and that's what I will do, and I will not adapt anything else. It's not possible. So how should a student be in a curriculum where they say, you have to use this tool? It should rather be, this is your problem, solve it, and the way you get there, like, whatever, like, as long as the problem is solved in a creative way and in a meaningful way.
Absolutely.
Rich, anything to add? Or?
No.
Oh, good. I want to, we talked a lot about digital, of course, in the last few minutes. My question is now turning a little bit more towards the physical side. We talked a lot about the last few years being, you know, reducing clay. Rich, I remember we worked together when Sasha was still at Genesis. You know, we do everything digitally, and yes, we have foam models and all these kind of things in place. How important, with all these changes, with everything of AI, new tools, this kind of idea of, you know, how to create a surface rather than using a certain tool for it, how important is that physical capability, or like that physical understanding for you? Will that go away? Will it come back in a certain context? How do you feel about those kind of physical models in any capacity, clay, foam, hard, whatever you can think of?
Yeah, I think they continue to be vital, even if it's just a one check model. There's just a human need for the physical model that's always there. I mean, during COVID, we did a really great job of evaluating stuff in VR and stuff, and we had stuff go through really quickly. We were able to verify it and feel comfortable with it in VR, but there's just something, again, special about being able to touch the object, being able to walk around it and feel its physical presence that I don't think will ever go away. And even as digital as Sasha was, we always did a check model, and Sasha had such a good relationship between his, surface knowledge and his own design that it made, the models turned out quite good, and it's a rare talent. I mean, even if in any, traditional artists, you have artists that are, that have a team that do their stuff, and some that just do it directly, but it's not, it just really depends on the artist,
Yeah, the reality is that every modeler in his life has to go through the milling process. So, and that's exactly where you learn the most, because what you see on screen is almost never, exactly what you see on physical. So once you mill it and it was looking amazing in your software, you realize that the volume is a little bit off, or the surface wasn't pumped enough, and it takes a learning curve for any modeler to be able to automatically, at the first shot, make that surface that is going to work fine in the clay or in the foam, doesn't matter, the physical model. There is this learning process. So I think every modeler should go through that process, and if they don't, because the company doesn't want to invest on milling and so on, there's a loss of quality there. Yeah. Is milling important? I mean, is the physical model important? That's the question. Yes, it is. Again, not only because you learn, but also because at the end of the day, what you sell to the customer is exactly that block, right? So you want to see what you are sending out. I am on the VR side of things when it comes to efficiency. Like, you want to check more often your model. You don't need to mill every week, right? I mean, you can check your model in VR. You can do it properly with materials and so on. So you have an idea together with the modelers and the designer. When they work together, it doesn't need to be for the manager presentations. It can be at the intermediate stage. Yet, I think you need to be able to mill at least once or twice in the project time, in the concept phase at least, to be able to see what you're doing and evaluate if this is really what you want to show to your boss or not. The clay is a different story. I don't know if you really need it. Yeah, you want to be able to tweak that last bit, but I think in the early phase, you move so much volume that in my personal understanding, I don't see the need of moving 2 millimeters in clay. I would rather do the big changes and remill it in foam or in hard. And maybe clay makes more sense in a later stage where you are fine-tuning what you already liked as a concept.
Yeah, I think that's a good point that you've been making also about, and by the way, it's not only the modeler that has this experience of, wow, this is what I modeled. It's also the designers that this is what I designed. That's what it looks in real life. I think we're going to lose a tremendous amount of learning in this process if we don't keep physical models. Because how should a young person who never made an actual product relate to what he sketched, then was modeled and then put out on the street or on the shelf in the shop? I think, and that's a very, very, very crucial part for designers. And to add another point to the reason for the being of physical models, I think up to this date, especially inside the design, we are not fully making use of the physical models as we could. I think there's a lot of data that we could capture, for example, ergonomic, but also in a lot of other stages that could be captured and that could lead, for example, to the creation of more predictive models in that area, and then to be even more efficient and more precise, and in the end deliver a better product for future physical models. And I think this is where we already have a lot of untapped potential right now that exists and stands everywhere in the design studios, and that can be used in the future.
Before we open it up to questions, obviously from the audience, I want to go into a quick scenario with you guys. Comes a little bit from own experience. Yeah. So we as a company, we trained a lot of people on Blender, especially designers. Now, I'm not saying this is all good or bad. I'm just putting it out there. Let's start there. And we now have the capability with polydata. It can be milled. It's relatively accurate when we mill it as well. The question for me is, how is your personal opinion about this for the actual product development? Because I'm hearing some people say, I don't want my designers to do it. You mentioned to me, it's like, bad data is no data. And then also, of course, you imagine, your stuff in 3D and you kind of want to see it also in the physical world. So what is your idea about this also for the future? And of course, maybe pushing this a little bit to say, how long can we work in this polydata, in this new modeling process, in this new changing environment, when we potentially in the future could say, well, there is an AI that takes the polydata, and because of our big OEM has so much data collected, we can say, click, I want to produce it in that factory and with that, and here's an 80% NURBS or Bézier's model that we can just bring to life, and then the model in itself becomes that quality and perceived quality direction. So how do you feel the responsibility of the designers and modelers is represented through that? And, do you still think it's feasible, and do you want to take on that responsibility maybe as well? There's a lot of questions there, but I think I want to get more of the feeling rather than a proper answer on this.
Let's start from the first point. Out of experience, it's a fact that the designers who understand 3D modeling, they are the best. I mean, there is no debate, because they understand the volume. So when they sketch a model, their sketch works. It's not a dream. So it's also easier for you as a modeler to capture that and make a perfect 3D model out of it. Now, we have seen in the past few years how a lot of designers, also thanks to your work, they are learning softwares, Blender, but also not only Blender, but especially Blender, because it's easy and it has an intuitive UI and you can learn it on YouTube. The issue starts when, in my opinion, when the designers tries to do the model as an input. I have an issue with that, because designers, some of them are really good and they should do it, but others, they are not there yet. And if you are in the position of providing an input, and the time is, we said already, the time is squeezing. So there is 1 week time, 2 weeks time to do a B-class, I don't know, sit, let's say sit. And then you get as a reference model, you basically don't get a key sketch, which is representing the idea, the final idea the guy wants to have. Instead, you get a relatively basic 3D model, and they give it to you and tell you, here, now make it nice. What should I do? It's nice enough, right?
You're the make it nice button.
Yeah, make it nice. So in that moment, I have an issue, because I'm given a 3D model which is badly made, or in his eyes is perfect, but in my eyes is badly made, and I need to make it better. But I don't know exactly what his final target was, because he lost it in the translation from his idea to the bad 3D model. So that's why, in my point of view, the designers always should come with a key sketch, which is like, you must have a sketch which is a representation of what you want to achieve. You should make a 3D model if you are good at it. You should make a 3D model and use that model as a base for your sketch, so that your sketch makes sense. Once that has happened, then you can deliver an input as a sketch plus the model. So the sketch is I need to do this. And the model is giving me some answers where I had some doubt. The second issue starts when you basically make the first iteration. So you make the sit, you send it back, and he want to ask you to make it a little bit rounder. It takes like 2 minutes to tell you to me. He will not sketch the line. He will make the 3D changes, and then I need to understand what he changed on the model. I'm going to lose again. If I have 1 week to model that, I don't want to lose 3 days because the designer is low. So when we talk to efficiency, I think this is an important topic. There must be a little bit of structure in how this is working. I mean, it's completely fine that the designers are learning 3D. That's actually really good. But the input should still be the key sketch. And also the sketches in between should be much faster.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with that as well. And I think it goes back to the whole story thing that Joshua was mentioning before, though. I was just at the film museum in LA, and it showed all the storyboarding for this Korean movie, and I noticed in there that's this thing that we often miss in design is we don't have design focusing on the story that they want to home us into, you know. And once we have those key sketches, then, you know, whether it's, you know, the guy doing the blender thing and then sketching over it again, is having a good target, you know, to shoot for, to help develop the character of their product is really, really needed. And I guess that would be like one thing I would put into education would be have people be able to do storyboards for the products that they're developing. You know, that really can help the modeler, you know, get there together with the designer.
Yeah, I mean, because technically a storyboard is kind of like a prompt to the final product that is then interpreted by everyone who comes afterwards, the designers, the modelers, and everyone. And yeah, I mean, I think this automation, it will happen, what you talked about. I don't know at what day, at what year in the future, but at one point we will have it. I'm not afraid that we will all lose our jobs. I think at this time, our job descriptions will not be the same as today, and we will have changed. And this is natural process of human evolution, I guess, somewhat. But as in the example that you stated, we have to take on this responsibility. We cannot just half-ass the tool and think that the modeler will correct it for us, or anyone else in the tool chain will correct it for us. If we assume that there's a new tool or a new way to work, we need to fully assume that and fully go through it, learn it, and put it into place. Otherwise, we didn't understand our responsibility as designers. And I think this responsibility might be much bigger than a lot of people are actually thinking.
Well, I think we're going to finish it off with that sense, because that's a really nice end. Thanks for watching this session from the Mobility Design Conference 2025 as part of the Munich Motor Show 2025. I hope you found some inspiration and new ideas about where mobility design is heading in the future. If you'd like to see more talks from the conference, make sure to subscribe to the channel and stay tuned. There is more to come.